Hey, Vector, what's the temperature today?
57 degrees and sunny.
Welcome to What's Up Guy Garage, February 4th, and it's 57 degrees out and sunny. That means it's time to break into Big Black. Big Black's got some issues that we've been dealing with for quite some time. Now it's about time to get things done. I mean, it's only February, right? Who cares about that thing that's over there, that plow? Looks like we ain't gonna need it. Go, Pats.
Personal foul. Defense.
So with Big Black needing its oil cooler replaced, we gotta drain the oil, we gotta drain the coolant. They're using coolant to cool the oil, which in my mind sounds like an asinine thing. I'm actually going to be removing both batteries. It'll just give me a little bit more room. That battery I usually leave so I can, kneel on it as I'm working on the truck. But I think just getting those things out of the way is definitely going to be a help. I'm going to be removing the alternator, taking the turbo out. We'll be taking those turbo clamp bolts off. Those are my Home Depot specials right there on those clamps. And then there's another clamp down there that we got to get. I don't know, where is it? It's there somewhere. Bust my zip ties so I could take this wire loom wrap, throw that up top. All its intercooler lines. Airbox, the radiator overflow tank. We've actually got a new one that we're going to replace that with. And then obviously, hoses and various items that we're going to be removing and getting out of our way. That little thing right here, if I can get my fingers in there, right where my fingers are pointing. That's why Big Black runs so cool. The thermostat failed, 4 years ago. Just been running at like 175 degrees max coolant temp for quite a while, and up until I think about a year ago, I had noticed that the oil temp started climbing, not coinciding to that 180-ish degrees, positive 25 plus degrees. I knew something was wrong. I knew exactly what it was. Not a serious job. I mean, it's just something that needs to be done, but it's got to get done, right? Taking an oil pan bolt off. It's a 19. See that yellow stuff? That's oil mixed with water. Damn it. Oil, actually. It's crazy. I almost wish I could keep this oil, because watch when this stuff comes out. This oil is going to look brand new. Look at that. Do you see the color? It's because Big Black's been getting oil changes for past 4 years without having to change oil, if that makes any sense. I guess in some ways, having Big Black leaking oil the way it's been, granted, it is pretty nasty under here, and I will have to clean it. Now that my hands got all nice and buttered up, back under here. Truck's not jacked up. The truck's high enough to where you don't have to jack it up. 15 quarts right there. But I'm fairly confident right now that Big Black does not have 15 quarts of oil in it. Big Black never has 15 quarts in it. People talk about these Fords and that they're pieces of crap and whatever their issues are. And I'll tell you right now, with all the abuse that this truck has gone through, with what I do to it, this thing just keeps killing it, I guess what I'm trying to get at, I get sidetracked very easily sometimes with the oil leaking in Big Black like it has. So my pinion seal, that's actually been leaking for quite a while. And then obviously when I did an oil cooler, I must have got one of the bad batch of gaskets. I think this is going to be the third oil cooler or fourth. I can't remember. Having Big Black leaking oil the way it has, I'll probably leak about, I'd say, a quart a day is what I guess. And I've let this truck get down to 5 quarts one time, meaning 5 quarts left in the crankcase. And the injectors actually told me something was up. So I just went back home and threw 2.5 gallons of oil in it. And I was good to go. Getting back to what I was saying again, was that having Big Black leaking the way it has, it's actually saved the undercarriage of my truck. because there's those people that get the fluid film done, and technically, hasn't my truck been doing fluid film, kind of like on its own? You can see under here, everything's got that nice coating of oil in it. There's, you know, a little bit of surface rust right there, but nothing to complain about. Yeah, I don't know. Everything under here actually looks pretty mint. But if you look all the way back on my truck, you can see how everything's got a nice coating of oil on it. You know, fluid film, right? If you don't have the size that you need, got the 36mm socket to take off, obviously, the oil filter cap. Right now I'm using 1 7/16". It's actually fine. It's just a piece of plastic, so you just gotta be careful just not to strip it. So it's just, you know, as easy as just loosening out. You could probably do it by your hand. Also, the other thing that would work is if you had a big like crescent wrench or adjustable wrench or whatever, or channel locks, or even a pipe wrench. It all works. So I'm just gonna finish spinning this off, just see what we look like here. So I'm just gonna let it sit like that for a little while. Hey Vector, what's the temperature today?
59 degrees and sunny.
I'm surprised you're not doing more of a freak out. I know I'm freaking out. When you take the oil filter out, make sure you got like a paper towel to kind of just lay it on. Because when it comes out, sometimes there's oil that leaks. And if you just want to keep, you know, a clean job, you want to go ahead and wrap this this up in a paper towel. I almost said toilet paper. So it's kind of like, how do I do this? So that's kind of like the crazy part, like how clean obviously things are, because, you know, Big Black's been getting a steady flow of clean oil for the longest time. I mean, just look at how nice and clean it is in there. Just take your cover and put it back on. Just for now, I'm going to start taking off all the stuff. We're going to disconnect the batteries right now. Don't really need to show you how to do that. I mean, just disconnect them. You can use either a 5/16 or an 8mm wrench. Come on, focus, will you? You can use either a, where's the camera? You can use either a 5/16 or an 8mm wrench. They both work. Go after your ground first. Mine, it's modified, so 5/16, 8mm doesn't really apply. Just loosen them. You don't have to take anything apart. Just loosen stuff. Because it's a diesel or dual battery, you've got actually 2 sources of power. So, like I said, you always disconnect the negative side. Put that up. Stick that up and away. And I'll go ahead and loosen the positive on this one. Just gonna loosen it. Oh, I feel bad, Big Black. I'm cutting your power. But, and see, this is the 5/16. I'm not using the 8. So I'm just gonna take that off. For now, keep that like that. Let's go ahead and see. Use that as kind of like a guard. And then now come back over to this side, disconnect the negative, pull the negative off the battery. Come on, get off. And then now we can disconnect the positive. And Big Black now has no more power. See what I mean? You take that and flip it around to use it as kind of like a shield. So I am, it's freaking gloves, sorry. So I am going to take the driver's side battery out because that's the one that's kind of like in the way of the airbox and being able to, you know, just gain access to stuff. And you need, you know, like a 5/16. Let's see if I can get in there. Can you see in there? See this bolt right here? That's what's holding in the battery. 5/16, 8mm, same thing. Just to make things easier, I'm just using my my rigid 1/4" impact gun. It just speeds things up. So just obviously make sure you're in reverse. It just makes things that much, I guess, faster, just to be able to take things apart. Now you can just take the battery and just lift it away. Pull it away. Ah, look at the little bastards, huh? Those maggots. Gotta get these guys out of here. Paper stuff over here too. Look at all these my open wires. What are they trying to do? Kill my truck? What is that? I can't even see. Can you see that? Look at them little teeth marks on there. Little maggots. So now we're underneath the truck, and what we got to do is we got to drain the radiator fluid or the antifreeze. And I'm just going to use one of these kitty litter pails because you can't mix, obviously, you know, the oil and the antifreeze. And then it just takes the same 19 millimeter to loosen this little petcock that they call right here. So I'm just going to give it a little twist. Get in there and turn it. Let's see if I can get it. What's tough is being out of the way of the camera. Come on. Let's see how this looks. Delicious looking fluid right there, huh? And we'll let that drain. Now just come topside. I don't know if you could hear that, but just kind of releasing the cap. That way the fluid has a way to, I guess, escape. That way it's allowing air to actually enter into the system. You can hear the fluid draining out. Right in there. Good stuff. I don't know, should we recycle that? Looks pretty good. Maybe I could just run it through like a coffee filter or something. So now while you're waiting for the fluid to drain, it's actually gotten down past the level that's actually in this reservoir tank, and that's obviously natural because this is the highest point. So you can take an 8 millimeter. We're going to go ahead and buzz these off. 8 millimeter, both left and right side. Grab yourself a set of channel locks so you can go ahead and pinch this and release it away. This is the overflow hose. Another one on that side right there. Another one right here. This is one of those ones that has that like little special holder piece, but it doesn't matter. We're just gonna get that out of there. See what happens is when you close that, that's the way that's actually designed. Is that little pin actually goes inside that hole, and then you're safe to, you know, use your fingers and get that out of there. Just kind of just put the cap, you know, loosely on there. It doesn't really matter. And then go ahead and take that hose, work that hose off like that. Then underneath here, I'm going to see if I can get the camera in there. There's a connection that you need to get. I think this is a little bit better of an angle. That way it's not in my way. This is that clamp that I was telling you about. It's actually attached to the bottom of the reservoir, and what we can do, take the reservoir, slide it out, and it gives you better access. See, now that the reservoir is slid out, kind of gives you better access to get that pipe clamp right there, that tube that's right there. You can weasel that off. Take your channel locks, pinch that together. You get the idea. So we're just gonna weasel that down to past a point to where it's out of the way. Go ahead and take that reservoir, pull it out, grab that hose, twist it off like so, just like that. See there? So this is that lower section. This is kind of important too. So you can see that these factory reservoir tanks, over time, they start to fissure and crack. And that's one of the reasons why I actually went ahead and got a new one. This one's been through the ringer. I don't know if you can see in there. It's been cleaned out, so. But yeah, so that's that. Now we're just going to remove the air box. To make it easier right now, we're just actually going to take the filter out, which is this middle section right here. You just pop the 4 clips. Oh, look at that one, it was already done. So you just pop the 4 clips and go ahead and kind of like, you know, split it. Give yourself some room so you can pull this thing out of here. Just like this. and it just kind of like pulls up. So it's giving me a tough time because it's held onto the bottom here. But there you go, there's your air filter. So the air filter themselves, the actual factory air filter or whatever you can buy, you don't, I guess from the factory, don't need to buy a K&N filter for this truck because this filter flows so well anyway. And you can see right now it's probably due for a filter change, which that's kind of like, you know, part of BigBlack's abuse or use. We're going to disconnect this little air gauge right here. That's, again, easy, nice. You just pull off this little clip right here and just set that aside if you have to, right? So if you've never done this before, I guess kind of like having things and connectors and whatever kind of in their position or whatever, you can kind of get the idea of how to put things together. But if you're nervous or you want to take the extra time, I mean, think about it. I mean, if you're not familiar with doing auto mechanics or whatever on a vehicle, and you're a little intimidated by something like this, don't be afraid to take pictures. Don't be afraid to take a video, record yourself so that you know how things are going in the reverse order when you're putting basically things back together. But I've had this thing apart so many times that, not that I could do it blindfolded, but I feel like I almost could. So now obviously we got to disconnect this sensor that's right here, and kind of engine oil dipstick is kind of in the way from seeing how you put it down, but it's one of those push down connectors, so you want to push down and then pry away kind of thing. So push down, pry away, just like that. That's the way most of these connectors are. And then it has a little connection right there. You just kind of just pull off right there. You see that little connector right there, just pulls off of there. And then you don't have to take this clamp off. You just go ahead and grab that clamp right there, take that one off. Again, like I was saying, 8mm, it's going to be your friend doing this. So just 8mm, wind it out. And then now you know that this is disconnected. Go ahead and just pull the airbox away. Taking out the forward section of airbox is actually really easy. There's nothing holding it in other than pressure. So it's more like one of those things where you're just going to kind of push away and pull up, and that's how that front half of the airbox comes out. Make sure you don't have auxiliary wires connected. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take the battery tray out, or battery box, and that's these bolts right here. The two bolts down the bottom, that's going to be a 13, and then there's actually another bolt right there, which once I get to it, I'll show you how to take that out. Just leave these bolts right in your tray. And then there was another one, and then right there, I think I can see it with the camera the way I got it set up. Right here you got two more bolts, one on the top right there, that's actually connected to that little box right here, and then there's another one down there. Just leave all your stuff in there. Now we got to remove two things. We got to remove this piece right here, which is called the FICM. It's the fuel injection control module, 10mm. The two front bolts, 10mm on those. That one, that one. And on the back side, there's basically in the same location. It's an 8mm, kind of tough to get to. I'll see if I can get the camera in there. They're actually way back there. They're on the back side. So they're kind of to the top, middle of where that is. And I'll see if I can keep this right here and not destroy. And that one right there, that, like I was saying, that's an 8mm. So it's really tough getting back here with those ones. And just gotta loosen those up. That one right there. Go over the one that's right down from it. Those ones loosened up. And then while you're here, then right here, you can go ahead and loosen these ones, but I have found you actually don't have to, because once you have the Fickum bracket off, which is actually attaching to this section of the air intake, you just want to loosen the clamp that's actually back there. And again, that's, you know, another one of those 8mm. And then take off these 2 bolts right here. Again, like I said, 10mm for that. Got a nice pot tray that's up there. Just take all your nuts and bolts and just stick them up there. They'll be safe. Not gonna go anywhere. See the fluid kind of leaking out right now. I'm gonna just pull these out. I'm gonna leave a couple of the top ones in place. Get this little wire connector off of there. Pull up. Now the only other thing that you need to pop out is this little, I think they call that a PVC valve or something like that. And that's, again, that's really easy to pop out. Just watch out for your wire. Just kind of wiggle it and just crank it out. It's held in by an O-ring right there. I am going to cover my turbo just because I don't want any crap going in there. Turbo is actually in good condition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a paper towel and just kind of stuff it in the hole just to keep things nice and clean. Just go ahead and kind of stuff that in the hole just to stop any kind of crap getting in there. So now just going to go after the intake cold side charge tube, and that's just 10mm. Now we'll get the lower bolts. It helps having extensions. Now obviously the only thing about breaking this tube free is that it does take, it does take some pull. Fortunately for me, I've got the metal tube, and I've actually replaced all these things right here, so it's actually not that big of a deal. But if you had the factory style, it's definitely a lot tougher to go ahead and pull this stuff apart. But when I switched over to this manufacturer right here, which I'll leave a link for the tubes and the silicone fittings or hoses that I went with, so you can see what I went with. Little key things to keep in mind is obviously when you start having things open is if you're concerned about stuff getting kind of in areas like obviously into this little section right here, just go ahead and plug it up with like a piece of paper towel or whatever, and that way you know that stuff's not going to get in there. It's just kind of like, pro tip. Now the Fickum, right? So the Fickum itself, which is this piece right here, the fuel injection control module, now that we've got it loosened up, you can lift it up and you can access the plugs that are here. Now, the way these plugs are, you have to push them in to pull them out, if that makes any sense. Try to light this up so you can see what I'm talking about this Fickum here. Put that light like there. What it is, right, is there's two like attachments on basically the front and back, and what you got to do is you got to push up and push in at the same time. So I've already got that one undone right there. So you're pushing in, pinching, and pulling out. See? And then there's one more on that back side, which this one's really tough. Push in and pull out, and then you can slide your Fickum out, and there you go. So this we're actually going to keep out of the rain. Figure I kind of just show you the configuration that we're dealing with. So on that back side of the Fickum, you've got this little bracket right here with these 8mm bolts, and then on the front side, obviously you saw that we had the 10mm nuts on that front side of the Fickum. Now, just to get it out of the way, I'm going to take off the upper radiator hose. Grab that clamp thing back down here. Can't tell if I'm in the way. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, we're going to remove the alternator. We're also going to take the serpentine belt off, basically of the alternator itself. And there's an easy way to kind of like keep things in line, and you need to use a bungee cord. We're also going to take out the hot side of the turbo tube, and I'll show you. So what I've done with mine is I've actually got mine double clamped. The hose kit that I got for the cold and hot side of the intake of the turbo had, new clamps. So I went ahead and double clamped that side because that side kept on popping off. And you can see my new hose down there. We're going to take off the hot side of the intercool hose now. So now, whether your truck has this one or not, this one's actually an 11 millimeter. To go ahead and take this one side of the intake tube off, or the hot side of the turbo hose. And you just loosen that up, and it should be able to pull off as long as it's loose enough. Come on. And then go ahead, and I'm going to loosen my double clamp that I've got here. We don't have to worry about, arcing anything in the alternator, obviously, because the truck has no more power. Then we got to get to these ones down here. Oh, my tools are all wearing out. Everything's turning to garbage. Just got to pull this tube out. Like that. And take it away. Let's put it in with the parts pile. Take my serpentine belt off my truck. I take a bungee cord and I throw it right through the latch receiver and kind of hook it in just because of the length of the actual bungee cord. And then I'll put this little camera thing back up here and then show you what the intent is. And with this truck, I mean, if you want to do it to be safe, you can go ahead and use a serpentine belt tool, but all you really need to do is just take this bungee cord and attach it to the actual serpentine belt, and then you just basically jump into the truck and rip that belt off, and you're good to go. Just you gotta watch your fingers, that's all. So for me, just jump right into the truck and just grab a hold of the belt and now the serpentine belt will basically stay in its position. There's no more tension on the alternator anymore. We'll go ahead and get rid of that sticker right there. You don't need that piece of garbage. And then we'll go ahead and attack these bolts right here. Getting off the alternator, again, really easy. It's just a 13 millimeter. You get, looking at the truck, like from the front of the truck back, it's 2 bolts obviously on the passenger side, 1 bolt on the driver's side. You don't have to worry about the wire connections right now. Everything is disconnected, and once this is loose, you'll be able to rotate the alternator so that you can see those connectors. And I think it's like a 10 millimeter or something like that. I can't remember. I'm just going to crack them free. Just like that. Trying to tell I've been here before. How easy this stuff is coming apart. I wonder if that one's loose enough yet. Oh. That's what this one is. And then looking at these bolts, You can see you're not going to confuse them because they're all the same length, so there's no issue concerning that. Put those on the parts tray. Now you'll be able to take the alternator and rotate so that you can see what you're working with here. Got a push-in style connector right here. Just push in, pull away, and then peel this back, which this is where the actual connection is. So 10 millimeter, and you just break that free. I hate gloves, I'm telling you. I'm telling you right now, I'm only doing gloves because I'm doing a damn video. Just to be honest, I hate gloves. Pro tip. Put your nuts back in place so you don't lose them. Again, as you go, just plug up holes. That way stuff doesn't get in there. It's just safe this way. It's the way I do it. So now more on the coolant side, we've got another bolt to take out, 8 millimeter, and that's connected to the intake manifold. And you can just go ahead and just loosen that right up. You could temporarily take it out, right? And then what you have to do, well, I mean, you don't have to, but this is just the way you do it. Take this bolt out, and this little bracket right here, you actually just kind of want to bend that up and out of the way, just like this. Let's get a little piece under there, a little screwdriver, and then just bend that up and out of the way just for now. There's no need to actually take this off. And then I like to, again, take your bolt and stick your bolt back in its place. Just easier that way. Now this one's actually a little kind of tough to show, but see this little plastic piece right here? There's actually a bolt right in there, and that actually goes right into the intake, and it's a 15 millimeter bolt. So I just get your wrench in there. It's kind of like one of those, you gotta kind of feel for it. That one's free, and there's actually another one basically on the opposite side of where this one is. You've got another one right here. My finger's in the way to show you, but there's one right there. You just have to trust me. Another one right there. Zoom in. Yeah, right there. See it? Right there. Not this. That's not supposed to have anything. Right in there. I know you can see that hole. Right there. Just throw a magnet on the end there. Stuff it in the hole. Pull your bolt out. See what I mean? It's one of those special ones. Look at this one. There's it. Right there. You can see the socket. It's right there. See what I'm saying? Right there. Socket. That one was tight. Hopefully this one will actually come out. Come on. Makes me want to get a Dremel in here and just start cutting stuff. Alright, so now I'm going to show you something that's behind here. This is another one of my backwoods fixes. Wait till you see what this is. Come on. Come on, get out of there. Check that out. You know what that is? Right there. Check it out. That's my valve stem fix for when the nipple broke off from one of the times. It's actually a common thing, and what people don't realize is you can actually take a valve stem, strip the material off the valve stem, screw that bad boy right in there. So this piece right here, this is usually held up by, not anymore. Broke this thing a long time ago. Pull these clips. They're right here. Holding the wire in the way. Roll that up and over. Then you can use the bungee cord. pull this up and out of the way. Just like that. Just to get out of the way. Now that this is out of the way, you can see the turbo oil line we've got to take off. 10 millimeter bolts right there. And then down there, another bolt right there. Focus, which that's 8 millimeter. 10 millimeter for these bolts right here. Really easy, just crack them free. Might find, let's see, where's my 10 millimeter? That with the space that you've got here, it's kind of tough to get a socket in there, so you just break it free. Real easy. And then try to keep like a magnetic parts tray. Definitely kind of helps. So I'll put that there. And right there. And then again, these are the top turbo bolts. They're the same exact size. Doesn't matter. And that 8 millimeter that I showed you, right down in there. Just get yourself an extension with an 8 on the end of it. Break that free. So, those are those bolts there. And you can just carefully take your turbo tube, separate it, bring it up. It's going to have an O-ring on the bottom tube. Just very carefully bring that up. Got to kind of like break the seal in a sense. Like that, see? So there's the O-ring I was talking about on the bottom of that turbo tube. I'm going to set that aside on our parts tray. Connector right here, that is for the actuator for the turbo. And mine already has a broken tab on it, just again because I've been here before. Just kind of just pull that out of there. And then you got 2 sensors down in here. You're going to want to pull those as well. One sensor right there, and then another one right here. I'll show you these as soon as I can get them out of here. Flashlight and see that one. So there's 3 things on this wire loom that you've got to disconnect, and just gotta get those out of the way for now. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go after the bolts or the nuts on the actual turbo. It's a special clamp designed for these, and I've already sprayed some lube on there. Just got to get a wrench in there, buzz that off. I think it's an 11. I think that's what I've got on there. Yeah. And then there's another one on the other side, which we'll get. Gets to a point where you can just do it by hand. It's one of those things where I kind of needed it in, I guess what you could call a pinch. Had to go to Home Depot and I got some threaded rod. First time I went to go blow these apart, I even used solvent, and they literally just self-destructed. So you can see now the clamp's down. A lot of times what happens is this clamp does like to kind of just, you know, fall all the way down. I don't even know if you can see the clamp. So right there, that's the clamp that I was talking about. This is the one that I had to make with threaded rod. But so now all we have to do is just get a pry bar. I don't know if you can see it. There's a little piece that you put a little pry bar on and kind of just give it a whack, and the pipe usually separates, no problem. And then we've got another one that's on the other side, which that one's a kind of a pain in the neck to get to. Right there. I'll have to see how I can get that one, or if I can come around the back side, maybe work it from the back side. That way you can see. Add a 10. Yeah, there we go. Right on there, right on the clamp. You just gotta kind of pry up on it. Sometimes you could just give it a wrap. See? Looks like it's free now. Get it out of my hand, see if it's free. Oh, it's probably just that one little piece. Oh no, the whole thing's free. Sweet. So, just gonna loosen up the bolt a little bit more. Kind of hard to see, but right there, there's a little flange on the top there. This camera's focusing on not what I want to focus on. Right there. See that little flange? Let me show you. See that little flange right there? We're gonna just basically pry that up and off. We'll separate that exhaust. Just like that. Just gotta show you how easy it was from the other side. The other one's kind of just giving me a hard time. So after you've got these two bolts right here, which is actually attached to a bracket that's attached to the intake manifold, those are 8mm bolts, and the one attached to the exhaust is a 10. Alright, so now you can see that that bolt that I was talking about right there, it's actually it's also a ground wire for the wiring harness. So if you want to follow the path of swivels, right down there to go ahead and get the 10mm on the turbo bolt that's underneath there. I tell you, good times, man. And the fun part will be not losing it. It'll get to a certain point where it's loose enough you can pull it off. Just kind of get in there with your fingers. Pull out your stupid extension. Reach in there and spit it off with your damn fingers. And the turbo bolts, there's supposed to be 3 of them. And that's what that looks like right there. Nice little turbo bolt that's going to go up on the parts tray. Parts tray. See? Parts tray. Parts tray. Fords have got parts trays everywhere. So the other turbo bolt we're going after is that guy right there. There we go. 10 mil. So I should throw some spray on there. All you need, just a little spritz. Just want to break it free. Come on. Get on there. And the rest can be done by my little 10mm gear wrench ratchet. There you go. Another turbo bolt. Throw it up there. Right next to the other one on the parts tray. Now, there's another one, which is right here. So, how can I show you that one? If I bring the camera down like this, maybe you can see the other bolt. Come on, right there. See it? That's the next one that I gotta get to. God damn it, can't get the... There we go. Alright, so right there. That's the other turbo bolt that I gotta get to. And the way you actually get to that one is you bring a ratchet up and over and then down with a 10 mil. Yeah, there we go. Alright, that works. Oh, it's just trying to figure out how to get that snaked in there with the camera kind of being there. That's the part, I think that's the hardest. If you can understand the fight. So, try to get that right on there. Just like that. Give it a crack. Come on. One little bite. And can't get my hands in there. Damn it. Now I got it. I gotta reposition myself. Hang on. Houston, we're going dead stick. It does have stuff on it, but because it's a turbo bolt, you know the issue. Well, if you don't, let me inform you. That back bolt is a pain in the neck. Almost there. What's funny is that the extension's got like a little grip on it, but it's up against the back of the turbo exhaust port. Camera and get in there, blocking the light. Can't believe I got my hand in there. Nice, that's the last turbo bolt. Take that last turbo bolt, throw it up on the parts tray. It was funny, the first time I took this turbo off, which was like maybe, I want to say like 6 years ago, something like that, maybe 7. I had found that it only had 2 bolts, and there was a perfect little bolt outline on the top of the engine. It's like that. It's part of the block. It's not like it's got some kind of a tray or anything like that. The way these are, the intake's a horseshoe. But it was funny. It was a perfect little like oil clear outline where the bolt had been sitting, probably from factory. Now I'll just be able to pull that turbo right out. Nothing's holding it in. Oil line's gone. Both exhaust pieces are off, and now it's just pulling it off of that little tube that's under there, nice and carefully. But it's out. And now you just gotta just carefully kind of rotate it out. And the turbo's out. Empty spot now. Now the step's awesome. Still not exactly sure where the oil was coming from, but obviously when I take it apart, it actually might be the seal on the actual oil filter housing itself. We'll see. But I know that, you know, stuff's gonna come out and off, and what the hell is that back there? Is that an oil-soaked rag? Oh, nice. What do we got here? 100-year-old rag. So trying to show the best way to take these little injector pieces off. Alright, so this right here, this is actually an injector connector. What you want to do is, there's 2 different ways to do this. You can actually pull these pins and lose them, or you can push down. Let's see if I can do this. You can, come on, you can push in. God, I can't do it. Can't get my fingers in there. You push in, and you basically, so what you're doing is you're depressing that pin down, like this little thing right here. And what it does is it opens up. See how it, come on. See how when you press that, when you squeeze it, it opens that up. It allows you to take the pin off, or it allows you to take the connector off. Down here on the intake, passenger side, there's another one of those little clips you want to remove, attached to a hose. And wait till you see what's going on here. This is actually a piece that I had fixed because it had actually broken off. So I went ahead and repaired it myself. So you can see all the injectors now. All the injector wires are all disconnected. Keep this hose up and out of the way. You can basically take this stuff and you can fold it over and, you know, bring it around this oil fill tube right here, and it kind of keeps everything, you know, out of the way. Injector harness right there. Gonna pop this off right here. Pop that off. And then you can see now you've got access to all your intake bolts on the passenger side anyway. And let's get another one of those little things right here. So there you go. I'll have to check that wiring harness, see what's going on here. Just make sure there's no rub through. It's, one of the things that I think that's overlooked is the wiring harness. Depending upon, you know, how things have been touched and rooted, sometimes you can end up with wire chafing issues if things aren't put together the right way, and that's why they have some tabs on them sometimes, just to kind of keep wires kind of in a channel and, you know, potentially what's designed. But I have heard that some of these engines that people have had some chafing going on and wiring issues, and so we're gonna check all the wiring and make sure everything's all set, and if I've got to add, you know, more protection, I'll do that. There's our turbo pedestal right there. We won't have to disconnect everything here. We will be able to take the intake out, kind of like this, kind of just feed it out. But I've got to work on getting the oil and fuel filter out of there. So next up is let's see, autofocus, come on, focus. That little nut right there, that's actually a replacement screw for the kind of the petcock for the fuel conditioner, which is this. This is the fuel filter that's underneath the driver's seat. So we're going to pop that. We're going to crack that first right there. We got the drain pan right underneath. Let's see how this goes. So I'm just going to... There is a Allen wrench that goes in there. I have no idea where it is, but shouldn't need it. Just be able to crank it and do this like this for now. That should be enough. Boy, the Allen wrench definitely would be a lot better. There we go. And that should drain right in to the pan that I've got below. Splashy. But the way it's designed, boy, that thing, oh, that's so bad. Oh, look at the chunks. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, I am so mean to Big Black. Oh, that's disgusting. Look at all that water in there. Yep, good thing I'm doing that now, huh? I don't know when the last time was that I changed the fuel filter. I guess it's good that I'm doing it right now. There we go. Disgusting. This pan back. There we go. Now we got some fuel flowing. That's better. That's more like it. Oh, that was disgusting. Oh, I am so mean to Big Black, I'm telling you. Man, my next truck, definitely going to treat it a little bit better than this thing. This poor truck, look at that. Look at that garbage coming out of there. Oh, that is so horrible. Holy moly. Oh, bad me. That's real bad. Holy crap. Oh, that was almost like pure water. Pure water and sludge coming out of there. Terrible. But that's why the thing's got two filters for people like me. Figure out a way to get the camera in there, but I kind of really can't. So that's the next thing we've got to take off. That's actually where the first line of defense is for the fuel. That's the main fuel conditioner or fuel filter right there, and we're going to take that off, and that's that same 1 7/16 I think it was socket, or a 36 millimeter. sound you're hearing, it's just the rubber warren. 9 socket. Stay on there. Yeah, I switched over to gloves. I was afraid to see what this is gonna look like. It's probably gonna look disgusting too. Well, it should look disgusting. Just trying to stay out of the way of the camera. Almost there. Couple more spins. There it is. Oh, that looks gross. Oh man, what am I doing in my truck, man? Oh, that looks yummy in there. Oh, crap. Come on. Get off. I can just imagine what this thing looks like. Oh, it's so horrible. I'm gonna take this cover and I'm gonna clean that. Can you see in there? See what inside that cover looks like? Oh my god. Well, it's doing its job, right? Holy crap, literally. What am I doing? That's BigBlack for you, man. I'm telling you. This truck, just, you can't kill it. I mean, I'm not trying to kill it, but if somebody, you know, on the outside looking in like what you guys are doing, you guys must think I'm trying to kill my truck. I'm actually not. I'm undercoating it. See all that free undercoating right there? Look at that. Undercoating, front to back. Okay, done. Now that we get the main fuel filter drained and taken out of the bottom of the truck underneath the driver's side, now I can go ahead and crack this open. And on this, you can use a regular 1/2-inch socket, or at least 1/2-inch drive wrench, ratchet, whatever you want to call it. It's so bad. Good thing I'm doing this right now. Check this out. Wow. Total garbage. Fuel filter's definitely doing its job. Fuel actually looks nice and clean in there. So that's a good sign. So for now, we'll just take the cover and throw it back on there for now, just kind of loosely in place, just to kind of keep things, you know, nice. That's it for tonight. I'm wrapping it up. I'm done. Continue on in tomorrow morning when it's 38 degrees. So this is the progress for now. It's slow, but I'm just taking my time because I'm trying to do a video here, you know. Give it the bounce test. Nice. Kind of like that. Yeah, see, I'm in my way. I'm in my own way. And then you just like lose it in the engine compartment somewhere. Come on, keep coming. Holy crap. Where's my ratchet? Of course, I say that, and it's not going to fit. In fact, it's already up here. Oh, going down. Oh, this thing's junk. It's literally, this camera is in the way. It's always the way, man. More acorns.